Ready, set, Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Rich Dotson, here, my fellow nerd, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
No Garrett Price today, no Jared Wackley, our producer. They are at the Senior Bowl.
Yes, they are having a ball.
Yeah, just one place. And today we did a short version of this on YouTube already,
right?
About the Dynasty Fantasy Football running back. Today we're going to do a little bit more in depth in podcast form, probably about an hour long.
I was going to say, no video today. We had some technical issues. There was a update that came out for Mac, and it just crashed a bunch of stuff.
That's why we have a producer for the video stuff. So no necessary.
No, Rich, it was technical in the fact that there was something that crashed. Don't make us sound stupid.
Oh, yes. Totally technical, way above my pay grade.
Yeah.
So we did cover this lightly in YouTube already, but we even got more numbers here to get involved with it. So the premise here is why we always talk about it on this show. If you've been listening to the show for over 6 years, you know this hashtag 2 to 3 year window, and why you should be selling running backs and why it should be the most fluid position on your dynasty roster. Now, it's easy to say zero running back strategy. It's easy to say hashtag 2 to 3 year windows. Guys, where do these numbers come from? Well, we now have the numbers.
We pulled them from the ether.
Yes, we went back all the way back to 2002 just to get a glance. But, Matt, the premise here is we're looking at a 10-year window. It's the best way to do it. It's a nice even number. It's a decade. Most running backs don't play a decade. So
most do not. Yeah, that's
most
true.
do not. Frank Gore goes way back. But again, outliers here.
Absolutely.
So all our numbers are in a 10-year window. So when you hear about guys like, Frank Gore, Steven Jackson, D'Angelo Williams, Michael Turner, and Maurice Jones-Drew, they were possibly just 1 year running back ones. They obviously had more than running back once. Michael Turner had two. Mm-hmm. Steven Jackson had a ton. Gore had a couple more. D'Angelo Williams had a couple. MJD had a couple.
Yep. At least. Yep.
Again, it's all relative because once we go in next year and at a decade, those guys would fall off the list altogether.
I was going to say, we started digging into it and trying to really get a grip on some of these guys further back, but you just open a Pandora's box. So we had to make we had to cut it off somewhere. We did it at 10 years. So yes, there are a few guys that are on this 1 year wonder list. Rich just mentioned the people that really aren't 1 year wonders, and we'll talk about how that kind of changes the stats when we get to that portion.
It's not much at all.
Yeah, having those,
if anything.
It's like a 4% swing. That's it. So it's not that big of a deal.
But it's going to be a constant change in number as we go along because
we're just going to keep updating, right? We're going to keep doing this kind of show like once a year and updating it for a 10-year slot. So guys will be falling off and guys will be getting added on as these, the new crop of running backs come and a new guy just pops up as a 1 year a Philip Lindsay type of guy that comes out of nowhere and is really only a 1 year guy.
So the premise here is we're hoping what we can do is identify outlying running backs. Running backs are going to give you more than 2 years of running back one numbers. Matt, if you want to go over, so let's start with the basics here. So remember, this is PPR in a 10-year window. So from 2020 to 2011, that's what we're covering. So any guys that were back in 2011, 2012, some of their numbers may be off, but most of them are not. Honestly, We found a couple, and all the ones that are off all fall off after this year. They're all 2011 guys. So it was the last year they were a running back one. So let's start over here, Matt, with the basic numbers. If you are a running back number, let's start there.
So we're going to base all these numbers off of a 12 person league. So obviously, there's 12 running back ones each year, and we're looking over a 10-year span. So that's 120 opportunities that we're going based off of to be a running back one over that 10-year period, right?
Correct.
So, if you look at the guys that were only 1 year wonder type of players, it ends up being 30 players. And obviously, some of these guys are on this list right now. Like you already mentioned, they're guys from you have to get in the Wayback Machine
a decade ago
that were just at the end of their careers. Okay. So, there's 4 or 5 of those guys. And then on the other side of the spectrum, some of the players are brand new. The Nick Chubbs, the Joe Mixons, the Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibsons, Austin Eckler, David Montgomery, James Robinson, Jonathan Taylor. And by new, I mean they still have an opportunity to get off this list by becoming a running back one a second time.
But again, they're offset by the guys that were already running back ones.
Correct. We already kind of touched on it.
It's all relative.
Yeah, it is all relative. But those guys, there was 30 of them. So 30 divided by 120, it gives you about a 25% chance of just being a one-year wonder right now as a running back one.
So you have a 25% chance. So out of 120 opportunities, only 30 of those running backs that were running back one out of the 120 only did it once in that decade.
That's it.
25%.
Yep.
So 1 out of 4 of those guys
and
will be a running back.
A decade is a long time. I mean, if you start expanding farther than that, you're like out kicking your coverage there. You know what I mean? Who knows if your league's going to be around that long? Who knows if your league has been around that long? You know what I mean? So you don't want to go too much farther than that. I know these are dynasties and people are playing them for life, but I mean,
this gives us a fair shake at that. And plus, it was different game back then as well.
That was gonna be my next point. The game has evolved as well, so we didn't want to go too much further.
And we could tell because if we go back to the early 2000s, from 2000 2010, there's different outlier guys there too. We're gonna talk about the new guy age outliers, but then you're talking Edger and James, Clinton Portis, Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson. Those kind of guys.
And there's always about 2 or 3 of them, I feel like.
4. I think 4 is a good number of the outlier guys, usually.
Yeah, throughout a 10-year span, I feel like.
So keep going on these numbers.
So if you further it and you go to a running back 1, 2 or more seasons, there was only 33 players that did that. So that excludes the one-year wonder guys. We are scrapping those guys. We're just on the guys that have done it 2 or more times. And that's 33 players, and that roughly comes out to about 28%. So you have actually a slightly better chance of doing a running back one twice than just washing out after 1 year. So keep that in mind, I think. And these are the players that we really have to kind of flush out. We have to identify, I feel like, the one-year wonder guys. I mean, and if you look down the list of players here, I think they're fairly easy to recognize. Carlos Hyde, Chris Carson's, Duke Johnson, James White's,
Mike Davis.
Yeah, Philip Lindsay, Mike Davis, Alf Morris, the guys that, a couple of these guys, they're not like PPR type of guys. They just had the right opportunity pop up in the 1 year that they kind of had the full-on workload. But we'll go over some more of those guys later. So 28% roughly of 2 year.
So out of all the running back ones, there's a 52% chance the most you'll be a running back one in your entire career is twice.
Boom.
52%. So a little bit more than half of all running backs that are running back ones, the most they'll ever be a running back one is twice. Hashtag 2 to 3 year window. Now, we say hashtag 2 to 3 year window, Matt, because what are the numbers for a running back one in a 10-year span to be a running back one 3 times?
It gets pretty sketchy here on out. So only 17 guys
out of 120
did 3 times or more. So you're down at 14% at this point at 3 or more. So you're already in outliers territory if you've made it 3 times.
So 66% of all running backs would do it 3 or less times.
Yep. With
25% of that, which is almost half of that number, is a running back one just once.
Just once. Yep.
And then,
so when you get even higher than that, you get 4 or more, and you're getting into a 5% chance. And if you're going to the crazy numbers of a running back one 5 or more times, you're at less than 1%. You're at 0.83%.
We only had one of those guys.
It was LaShawn McCoy.
So 6 running backs have been a running back one 4 or more times this decade, and once has did it 5 times, which is LaShawn McCoy, who has a total of 6 total running back one numbers overall. If you go back to his career,
I was gonna say he had one before before the 10-year window as well.
Again, so you're looking at LaDainian Tomlinson's, you're looking at Matt Forte's. If you're gonna go back to the decade before that for the outlier, right now guys that have running back 4s that are still playing that have been a running back one 4 times already that are still active that could do it again. Zeke Elliott, and Alvin Kamara.
That's it. That's it. It's a short list.
Zeke Elliott. Everybody wants to sell Zeke Elliott. Alvin Kamara. That's it. So Alvin Kamara is essentially the new LaShawn McCoy, who's the new LaDainian Tomlinson.
He's the new hotness. I think there's guys that also, CMC has a shot at he was injured this year, but I think he would have legitimately been on this list a fourth time had he just been healthy. But we can't go off of what ifs, right?
And that's a big thing. So
that's a thing.
Here's what even proves the point, some of this as well. It does not matter why you were not a running back one.
Right.
This just proves the point of the fluid position and why, even no matter how good they are, again, Saquon, Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, going to ADP-wise, going into the beginning of the year of this year, they were 1-2 in ADP startups, right? Christian McCaffrey, then Saquon. Neither of them finished as a running back one this year. Now, will they finish as a running back one again? Highly likely.
Highly likely, as long as they're healthy.
But they can easily pull a Bo Jackson and get career injury hurt, you know what I mean? And then Christian McCaffrey never plays again. And then, no, those are his numbers. It doesn't matter they average 30 points per game. Those are his historical numbers. Hashtag 2 to 3 year window. So we're looking at guys here. What are the odds of you drafting a running back and he was a running back one for him to keep being a running back one? Where is that value? When do you sell? When do you buy? We preach here all the time, and I think the Dynasty community has kind of caught up on this concept as well. We've been talking about for 6 years is once you're on that rookie contract, that's it.
That is it.
That is it. That is literally it. If you get more than 3 running back 1 years out of that, you have yourself a very good running back. If you have a guy who did it once, that was a good draft pick. It was a good trade. You have a solid player there. If you have a guy who's running back one twice, that's a really good running back. That is above average, way above average. Great draft pick. You got 2 running back 1 years out of them. Be happy about that. Move on.
Adios.
If you have 3 or more, then you have almost an outlier right here.
You pretty much do. You're at 14%, and you can consider that running back a ticking time bomb. You know what I mean? There's a 95% chance that he's not going to be a running back one a fourth time. A 95% chance.
Ever again.
Yeah, ever again.
So if you have guys, so let's look at guys that have been a running back 3 that are currently still playing, right? So Montgomery not playing. Todd Gurley. Will Todd Gurley ever be a running back 1 again? No. Lev Bell? Probably not.
Nope.
Murray? No. Adrian Peterson? No. Melvin Gordon? Probably not.
Probably not. No. I mean, he's done it 3 times. Rich, look at the numbers.
Hall of Famer.
Melvin Gordon is like the perfect guy to look at. He's a perfect subject for this because he's done it 3 times. The last time he did it was 2018. And the numbers say there's a 95% chance he's not going to. But this is a guy that's still a name out there, and people still I know his name has faded, but you can still get something for him because he's about to fall off a cliff.
Correct.
The numbers show it.
95% chance.
History shows it.
And if he does, he enters that elite conversation of the guys that have done it 4 times in this decade, which are Forte, Zeke Elliott, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, and Marshawn Lynch.
And do you see him that way? Do you think he's a 4-timer?
I do not.
And neither do I.
Unless they trade for some elite quarterbacks. They have so many good offensive weapons there. He might be able to get there because he could be one of those guys. I mean, he could be like a Mark Ingram. So again,
but look at me. Is that your head saying that or your heart saying that?
None of the above. I trade him for a first.
Okay, there you go.
So out of this decade, before we get into that where we were at for a second ago about these guys are going to be a chance. That's it. Out of the numbers, Kareem Hunt has a chance. He was running back 3 times. Mm-hmm. Besides that, other guys are out of the league. Arian Foster, Chris Johnson, Jamal Charles are out of the league.
Yep.
Now, over the last decade, these are the only running backs that have a running back 1 season 4 times or more. Okay. Shady McCoy did it 5 times in the last decade. That's it. He's alone here. He's the outlier. He's the creme de la creme of the last decade. Then you have Matt Forte. You have these guys that did it 4 times in the last decade. Matt Forte, Zeke Elliott, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, Marshawn Lynch. End of list. That's it.
That's it.
No more.
It's a short list.
So out of all those guys that said did it 3 more times, I mean, the best chance here is we're looking at Christian McCaffrey has the best chance.
Absolutely.
And then maybe slim chance Kareem Hunt, who was a running back 1 throughout at times of the year. He was running back 7.
Yep.
And then Melvin Gordon. So you're hanging your hat on for the guys that join that next list, Christian McCaffrey, who's clearly an outlier, right?
And he's clearly talented enough, and as long as he's healthy, he's going to be a 4-timer at least.
Okay.
Yep.
And then Kareem Hunt.
Yep.
Who's unlikely to be a running back 1 again.
I would think so, just because he's splitting carries. It would take an injury to Nick Chubb for him to be one of these guys that's on the list 4 times, I think.
So a big name comes up here. It's a guy who people are like, oh, you hate him. I've come around. He's fantastic. I love him. Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, yep.
Is Derrick Henry an outlier? Derrick Henry's been a running back
Twice.
2 times. I could easily see Derrick Henry's name on the list into that 3 category, right?
I think he's, and this is a lot coming from us. I think he's talented enough to be on there a 3rd time, as long as he holds up physically. They are not afraid to give this guy the ball, 35 times a game if that's what it takes for them to win. And it seems like towards the end of the season, he starts slowing down a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed that as well. I don't know if it's him getting up a little slower after every play or what. He's only a human being. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much tread on any running back's tires. So I think he's talented enough. I think his usage, I think they're just going to run him into the ground. So as long as he stays healthy and doesn't completely fall off a cliff here, I think he'll make it a 3rd time.
Which is then the sell point.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I think the safe thing here is no matter what, you're getting peak value after a guy's been a running back 1 3 times. I think it should be the automatic sell point.
I think it definitely should. But would you fault anyone for going ahead and selling Henry now?
No, 100% not.
No, okay.
I would, because there's peak value on him right now. You're talking about a guy who was just running back number 3 overall. You're going back to his other running back 1 year, which was 2019. He was running back 7, right around there, number 7. So you're talking about 3 and 7. But his ADP value is 1st round startup ADP. So you can flip Derrick Henry into Justin Jefferson, who our next show for the Nerd Herd, we're going to do the same show with wide receivers for the next show, for example, just to let you know. And here's a little teaser. The wide receivers are the best investment you can make for your dynasty team.
A little teaser.
We
won't dig into the numbers, but
when we're talking here, like, oh, he did this twice.
Yeah.
Wow, he's really good. It's a little different for the wide
7,
receivers. You can get about 8-9 years out of those guys.
It's not that drastic, but we haven't even touched the running back 2 numbers yet, which is a whole different ball of wax, and that's where the huge differentiation is between running backs and wide receivers.
And we'll talk about that next episode.
Absolutely.
So the big point here is then what you're trying to identify is when to get out from the running back in Dynasty Fantasy Football. It's constantly. We just mentioned after their first contract. You want to get out. That's 4 years usually in the league. That's peak value for them. That's the healthiest they're ever going to be. And they're not going to be most of these outliers because they're not a big contract because they're a good running back. So they probably had running back 1 numbers already. So the odds of them keep doing it are slim. Don't mind you the outliers. If you have an outlier anyways, you're probably competing for a championship. And you're going to hold on to them anyways.
Right. Yep.
So when we're looking here now, another number we can see here is, for the most part, if you're a running back 1, what are the odds that, if you go off of this, that you're just a running back 1 the very next year? Okay? So there's 12 of those guys, right? Guys that were running back 1s in 2020, 5 of those were running back 1s in 2019.
So these are back-to-backers then.
Back-to-backers.
Yep.
In 2019, and some of these guys obviously were 3 in a row. Like a guy like Alvin Kamara has been a running back 1 4 times in a row. So he's going to be on this. He skews this number 4 times. But who cares, right? In 2019, 3 running backs total were running back 1s in 18. In 2018, 4 running backs were running back 1s in 17. Then 5, then 4, then only 2 running backs in 2015 were running backs 1 in 14. Then the only number that was above half was 2014 when you had Matt Forte, DeMarco Murray, Marshawn Lynch, Eddie Lacy, Jamal Charles, Jock Bell, of all people, and LaShawn McCoy. 7 of those running backs were running back 1s in 2013. Besides that, it was 5 and 4.
So 7 is, I was going to say 7 is the high water mark.
By 2.
By quite a bit, yeah. So
about 4.5 is I think the average out is about 4.5.
So you're looking at least. You're saying 4.5 is the average. I think
carryover number.
A carryover number. So you're looking at between 7 and 8 new running back 1s basically every single year.
And let's go.
It just talks to the turnover.
Yeah, let's butt it up to 5.
Right. Sure.
Let's just go to 5. Let's round up, babe. Come on, let's do it.
So we're at 7 new running backs, no matter what,
every
on
year.
Average every single year in running back 1s.
And we've seen up to 10.
Yep.
And we've seen it as lowest. The lowest it was once was 6.
Right.
Besides that, the lowest it was every year, you take out that 1 number, is 7 new running back 1s every year. So let's look at the running back 1s last year, Matt. Alvin Kamara has been a running back 1 4 times straight. Dalvin Cook has been a running back 2 times straight. Derrick Henry, 2 times straight. James Robinson,
What?
One time.
Yeah, first year, obviously.
Aaron Jones, 2 times straight. David Montgomery, 1. Jonathan Taylor, 1. Kareem Hunt.
New to the game, yep.
Kareem Hunt. Josh Jacobs, once. Zeke Elliott, Mike Davis, Antonio Gibson. So the easiest name to throw out here right away is Antonio Gibson. Or I mean Mike Davis.
I was going to say it is. Holy cow. I shouldn't have traded that first round draft pick
It's
for
Mike
him.
Davis.
Yeah, it's Mike Davis.
So,
he's the one guy that you look on this list and I said it earlier, let's try to identify the 1 year guy. It's Mike Davis.
It's Mike Davis. So that's out of the 7, that's the easiest one to throw away. That's now we need 6.
Awesome.
So odds are 6 more of these guys will not be on this list for running back 1 next year. 6. Matt.
So
6.
So let's look at it. I think the next most likely guy for me is David Montgomery. He's a guy that in my opinion he had the exact right situation and he got to the list. You know, Tariq Cohen wasn't there for the whole year, so he was catching probably more passes than he will next year. And the fact that he had such a soft schedule towards the back end of the season when they kind of needed to get things going, I think it was kind of a perfect situation for him to get where he got.
Off the list.
Yep.
So now we need 5 more.
Yep.
Okay. Next guy on this list, I think the easiest guy to choose from here then, because there's a late season surge. I'm going to take that into effect a little bit. I think I would pick Antonio Gibson.
Bottom of the list as well. Yeah.
Bottom of the barrel list. Still like him as running back. Most likely probably a running back 2, but still, that's my guess. If you're putting a gun in my head, we got to pick 5 more guys.
Yeah.
He's one of them for sure, right?
What do you think about a guy named, I have a guy that I think is better and easier, but what do you think about a guy, Aaron Jones? His situation is so up in the air right now.
If he lands in San Francisco, he's a lock.
Yeah.
Anywhere else, I'm taking him off the list.
Right.
And we talked about him. He's already been a running back 1 twice.
Is he part of the 14% that's going to do it a third time? Or is he part? Yeah.
So to me, what I'm doing is once Aaron Jones signs somewhere that's not San Francisco, you're selling. And you're going to use that we'll talk about this when it comes to free agency. He's a sell.
Right.
Because then even if he's a running back 1 again next year, you're getting peak value right there because he's signed for a new team. Somebody's excited. And
chances of him being part of the 5% is even lower.
Because you got to remember, even if he does hit as a running back 1 in 2021, there's a 95% chance that he will not be a running back 1 in 2022.
True.
95% chance. So you can take Aaron Jones off of that from what we've done here. What about Zeke Elliott, Matt? Zeke Elliott has been a running back 1 4 times already.
And what was he? He was like number 10 or something, right?
Yeah.
So he was falling off a little bit.
Want to take him off the list? And there's a couple guys we put back on, barring they're healthy, for sure we can put back on the list are Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey, right?
Those guys are
2 guys.
Definitely going to easily be put on there. Austin Eckler, there's talk of an up-tempo offense that's going to feature him in the passing game. So
he's likely to get back on the list here. Nick Chubb has a good chance to get back on the list. I see him as a multi-year running back 1, so that's 4 guys we added right there. And then probably, depending on land spot where they go, we will see another rookie, Travis Etienne or Najee Harris will probably make this list. Maybe it's Javonte Williams in the right spot. A rookie or 2 always find their way on this list.
Yep.
That would round out the 6, right? So that's 6 guys right there we could probably add back on.
And don't you forget about my boy DeAndre Swift.
And DeAndre Swift, yeah, they're talking about they are the new offensive coordinator, which is coming from New Orleans, and Dan Campbell, the head coach, coming from New Orleans. They want to use him in the slot. They want to use him just like Alvin Kamara. And this is great news for DeAndre Swift owners. But so who else can we take off this list? So
Kareem Hunt, maybe, right?
He's not on this list.
Kareem Hunt is, yeah.
Oh, he is on the list. So take off Kareem Hunt. Yep. So here's we got for sure. Antonio Gibson, Mike Davis, and these nothing's for sure, but David Montgomery, Kareem Hunt. That's 4.
Aaron Jones.
5. So we would need 2 more off of this list that odds are. But let's say it's an outlier year and 6 carryover because some of these guys are pretty good. We need to pick 1 more guy off the list. Is it Josh Jacobs? Is it Zeke Elliott? Is it because I'm leaving Dalvin Cook on, I'm leaving Kamara on, I'm leaving Derrick Henry on, I'm leaving Jonathan Taylor on. Is James Robinson the guy? We've seen that. We've seen those rookies come in, have a good year, and then that's it.
Whole new situation, whole new coaching staff he's going to have to impress.
2008, Steve Slayton came in, running back with like number 8, not number 4 overall. But yeah, like you said, I think James Robinson's the easiest pick for me to take off of here.
Okay. All right. I agree. I think he could be one of these guys that I mean, I don't want to call him one of these Chris Carson type of 1-year wonder guys, but he might be a guy that's more suited to convert or revert, I guess, back into like a running back 2.
Which is Chris Carson's a running back 2. He's only had one running back 1 year. Who's been a good name, but he's only had one running back 1 year.
He's had 2 running back 2 seasons. So, I mean, it's one of those things where and we could get into those numbers a little bit if you want.
Joe Mixon can get back in the running back 1 game here. Like you mentioned, Austin Eckler can get back here in the running back 1 game. Nick Chubb can get back in the running back 1 game here. Those are all good names that have already been running back 1s already.
Right.
Besides the rookie class. But again, none of these other rookies are even on here. Guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, and J.K. Dobbins that were rookies this year that could flirt with those numbers.
So, do you want to try to dig into the running back 2 type of stats?
Yeah, absolutely. But before we do, how about we jump on here real quick and have a word from our sponsor. Yeah, we love our sponsors, and today we are talking about Prediction Strike. That's right, Prediction Strike. Do you wish you could have had stock in a guy like Derrick Henry before the season? Well, now Prediction Strike makes that a real possibility. Prediction Strike is the only performance-based sports stock market where you can buy and sell shares of professional athletes as if they were stocks. Prediction Strike lets fans create portfolios of their favorite athletes so they can even get closer to the game. Don't just draft your favorite players, start investing in them. Simply visit PredictionStrike.com or download their app on the App Store to create an account. Then deposit funds to buy, sell, and hold shares of your favorite players, just like you would real stocks. The value of players will change based upon game performances, and you could trade your shares of players at any time, as long as a player isn't currently in a game. They also just rolled out a new feature where you can join leagues and add friends to see what athletes they're buying stocks in, how they're performing, and if your friends' portfolios are better than yours. Sign up today with that promo code DYNASTY to receive $10 with your first deposit of $20 or more. So if you deposit $20 or more, you're going to get free $10 to invest. And I think the show we're doing right now is going to be really good information to show you when to sell high.
Absolutely.
Always sell high on the running backs that are putting up running back 1 numbers and reinvest that in the fresh wide receiver ones. That's going to be the best bang for your buck.
I feel like me and you would rake against some of our friends.
Yeah, we should definitely.
If we were comparing portfolios.
I think we should up our portfolio at PredictionStrike.com. But this is I think Dynasty players have a big advantage here for Prediction Strike because you can see these long-term trends. And just knowing the hashtag 2-3 year window, you'll make money on that right now. Like selling Derrick Henry right now at peak value.
Absolutely.
Is going to be, and then reinvest in like a guy like Justin Jefferson.
It would seem like a bad move, but in the long run, and if you look at the numbers, it's a great move.
Yeah, and take that free $10, invest in a rookie wide receiver that we love, like a guy like Michael Pittman Jr., right? A guy like maybe like Jalen Reagor or J.K. Dobbins and DeAndre Swift, whose value is about to skyrocket.
Basically, I mean, we're laying a strategy out for you. Just go and invest in rookie running backs and then flip them into these longer-term assets.
There you go. PredictionStrike.com. Use that promo code DYNASTY and get rich today.
Nice.
That's what I'm doing. Well, I've been rich my whole life.
You're always rich.
But that's the way to go. So, Matt, let's get back to the show here. You want to talk about some running back 2 numbers.
So, yeah, I kind of took it a step further here and wanted to dig into some of these running back 1 numbers and their chances of if they've done X, like if they've done 1 year, like if they're a 1-year wonder guy, how many or what's their chances of becoming a running back 2 then? And I did it kind of in tiers as well. I did it if they were going to be a running back 2 1 time, 2 times, and 3 times. So let me just run through some of the numbers really, really quickly. So if you're a 1-year wonder running back 1, the chances of you becoming a running back 2 only 1 more time. It shouldn't be that hard, you would think. And the numbers bear out. There was 10 of them that did it. It was a 33% chance or 33.33% chance that you would be a running back 2 once if you were a 1-year wonder. I know this is starting to get a little confusing, right? So if you were a running back 1 once, you were the 1-year wonder, and you became a running back 2 twice, you only had a 10% chance of doing that. So these numbers really fall off. These 1-year wonder guys, you really need to identify them. They're not long-term assets. They're not going to be great for your team, and they're not going to be high-end useful guys for your team.
Let me repeat that number for guys, if you guys and gals that might not have understood that. If you were running back one, right?
One time.
Out of all those guys that were one time, only one out of three of those guys, 33%, one out of three of those guys will be a running back two.
Right.
So that's 13 to 24. So even if you have a running back one now, so guys we just talked about, James Robinson, Mike Davis, Antonio Gibson, David Montgomery, and Jonathan Taylor, right?
You have a 33% chance of any one of those players becoming
a running back two. Okay. That means one out of three. So we have six guys here. Six. Two of those guys will be, now obviously someone could be a running back one again, which would skew that. So like Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs had the best bet there, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So you take those two guys. So that gives us four. So only two of those guys, most likely,
or one or two. You're somewhere, right.
One or two will be a running back two.
Once.
Yeah.
And to do it multiple times, and you're down to three people, you only have a 10% chance of that. So, I mean, those guys are such big outliers at this point. And there was only one player that did, was a running back one once and then was a running back two three times. There was only one player that did it. I can't remember who it was, but that at least has a little bit of value. If you can find that one player that at least you were able to start for 4 years, you know what I mean? So that these numbers get muddy fast. They fall off quickly. So let's move on to the next one. If you were a running back one, two or more times, these are the 33 players that did it. There was only 27% of the running back ones that did it twice or more. And if you did that twice or more, the chances of you being a running back two once was 42%. So you have a pretty good shot, right? Almost a 50% chance. 42% chance is not that bad.
Yeah, 14 of those guys were a running back two.
Exactly. So that's actually not too bad. Like, so if you've had if you've had a guy be a running back one twice, there's a pretty good chance that he is going to be a running back, at least a running back two once.
So that means you got 3 years of startability out of that person.
This
hashtag 2-3 year window.
Yeah, exactly, to our hashtag 2-3 year window. Because after that, to do it twice, it falls all the way down to 18%, and nobody did it three times. So nobody was a running back one twice and a running back two three times. So
ever.
That would have been 5 years.
10 years.
Right. So
ever.
So that would have been 5 years of that, which it's speaking, these numbers are speaking to the fact that there is a window for these guys. And
it's 4 years.
It's 4 years. That is it.
For the good guys.
The
good guys have 4 years.
Exactly. So
everybody else is an outlier.
It really proves your point that get these guys on their rookie contract and get out.
And the point of the running back two numbers is because those guys are still important. Those are championship caliber players. If you have a running back one, a running back two, a good tight end, and solid receivers, you have yourself a very good team. So the running back two is important. But the numbers here show as well that even if you're running back one to once, like the odds of you being a running back two more than once are under 50%.
Right.
Under 50% for you to be a running back two at some point in your career. So it's like literally the wheels are just falling off. So once you see a player become a running back one, the clock is ticking. It's always ticking until you know that they are the outlier. How do we establish the outlier? Who is the outlier? Right now, we're seeing one live and in person. That's Alvin Kamara. No matter what happens for his career, he's an outlier from this day. If he never plays a snap again, he's an outlier. But we saw how Alvin Kamara looked without Drew Brees. Matt, is Drew Brees playing in 2021?
I don't think so. Nothing official, but it doesn't sound like it.
That's not good.
That's not good. So this is another weird thing that I wanted to bring up. The numbers of players that have been a running back two one or more times has a converse relationship with the players that have had a running back one season, one time, two times. So as the numbers dwindle and you're getting into this smaller and smaller group of running backs that are elite and have done it multiple times, like 3 or 4 times, their chances actually go up that they will eventually land on that running back two radar. So So the numbers, like we already started off with the running back ones and running back twos, and we saw a trend that it went from 33% to 42%. That trend continues, and if you've been a running back 1 3 or more times, the chances of you becoming a running back 2 once goes up to 52%. So it's as we're going down and getting this smaller and smaller group in the running back ones, those elite players, the outliers that we're calling them, they're actually having a greater chance of at least running back landing it as a running back 2 once.
And odds of you doing it 2 more times are pretty much 33% for the going out.
Going on. Yeah. Yep. So let me just bang them out real fast here. The running back 3, if you're going to be doing a running back 2 once, it's 52, like I had mentioned. And if you were a running back 1 4 or more times, the chances of you being a running back 2 once is 66% chance. And the one player that was 5 or more times was LaShawn McCoy, and he was a running back 2 once as well. So that was 100% chance.
He's the only one to compare it to. So
exactly.
He did it once.
Yep. Exactly.
But he's an outlier. So the thing is, if you're a running back 1 3 times or more, you are an asset.
You're an asset because exactly
after that too.
And chances are because these are the guys that are really, really good. They're even on a down year for them or a year where they're tailing off, the chances are pretty good that they're going to at least perform to the level of a running back 2. And I think that's what the numbers tell me anyway.
And even here, we're only and the guys like that are going to be like Melvin Gordon. Odds will he be a running back 1 to get that 4? Maybe not, but he's probably going to be a running back 2 like he was this year, which was around 15.
I think that is a perfect example of a guy that is in this at least 50% range of becoming a running back.
And Kareem Hunt.
Yep.
But that's it. Those are the only guys that can even beat that number. So the other guys that we're looking to be running back 1s again for the 3rd time. Let's look at these guys. Aaron Jones, which we're taking off that list. Derrick Henry, who we like a lot. And then Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette, Latavius Murray.
I mean, Latavius Murray's not going to do it.
He's not going to. No, these are guys. I'm just telling you guys that even have a chance, right? So say Alvin Kamara goes down. These are the only guys that have a chance to be a running back 2. A running back 1 again for the 3rd time. Mm-hmm. Aaron Jones, like I mentioned. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Latavius Murray. That's it.
And so, you're basing that off the fact that they're still in the league, and that's it.
They're still playing.
Yeah, because a couple of those guys, there's a very slim chance that they're going to do it again.
And the other guys I like here are Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, and Derrick Henry.
Right, because I don't think Leonard Fournette has much of a shot.
No.
And obviously neither does Latavius.
And you never know. I mean, like I said, you never knew Mike Davis was coming to be a running back 1, but there's always those guys. So even out of those guys, of those outlier guys you're looking at, they're already expensive. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're not try and buy Saquon Barkley. Go buy Derrick Henry. You know what I mean? Those guys are already expensive assets in Dynasty. So in Dalvin Cook, I think the big thing to pay attention to those guys right there. Now Saquon's young enough where he could be this outlier to join the Alvin Kamara tier.
Yep.
And his ADP and his price tag shows that. But I think the other names you want to watch here is all 3 of those guys are not outliers, right? So Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry. Those are the next guys up to be the big sells and get out high.
I think identifying sells is very important. You have to look at the list and figure out the guys that need to sell. And I think those are great names. But I think another thing that you have to do is look at the list of newbies and try to identify kind of future guys that we see as guys that can make this list twice and maybe 3 times to be like the outliers.
And I think there we're looking at Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson, James Robinson. Right? That's the list. And Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
We go back 2 years for him because Joe Mixon was a running back 1 in 2018. Mm-hmm. That's it. He wasn't a running back 1 in 2019. He wasn't a running back in 2020. So identifying these guys so basically when you're going out to buy a running back, right? Running backs are really expensive.
I was just saying, and out of those guys that you just identified, who is obtainable on that list for you know what I mean?
James Robinson's probably David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson.
Because is he though?
I think so.
Do you think the toe injury, the late season toe injury, has opened a window there? Or?
I mean, he was running back 12 overall, so I think he's obtainable. Jonathan Taylor, you're not buying him.
I think Austin Eckler. What do you think about that?
I think it's obtainable because he didn't have a big year.
He didn't have a big year. There's a lot of turnover there with it. I mean, obviously the coaching staff. So there's some unknowns,
I think he's the number one guy on this list. If I had to bet for the best bang for your buck to get what, and I think the big number for him is that, I think his floor, the running back 2 floor of multiple years. I think that's where he gets. I could see Austin Eckler getting us one more running back 1 season, and followed by 2 more at least running back 2 seasons. So I see 3 more years of Austin Eckler. Let me say, put it that way.
And he's already had 1 running back 1 season and a running back 2 season. So he's already hit up both lists. You know what I mean? So he's already one of these weird 33 percenters that's on the list as a 1-year wonder, and he's on the list as a running back 2 once. So
he's the only one I'm buying. You know what I mean? Of course I want Jonathan Taylor in my roster, but I can't. You're not buying Jonathan Taylor. He's got first round ADP, right? You're not. I mean, I guess you could buy Josh Jacobs, but I mean, do you think Josh Jacobs would be this outlier? He's already had 1 running back 1 season, so I look at Josh Jacobs having 1 more running back 1 season, and that's it for him. You know what I mean? So to me, he's a sell next year. Dalvin Cook's a sell next year. Derrick Henry's a sell no matter what next year. Those are guys that are sells no matter what. Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook. Those are my big-time sells no matter what, because the numbers are saying that their days are just about over.
Right.
And if it's not then, it's tomorrow. It's not too far away. So I think for me, what about you think? I think Austin Eckler, he's the only one I think that's affordable on this list. I mean, even Joe Mixon comes with a heavy price tag.
I mean, that's why I mentioned him. Obviously we mentioned David Montgomery as well. He's another one of these guys that's part of that 33%, same as Austin Eckler, that's been on the running back 1-year wonder list and the running back 2 once. So he's part of that 33% as well. But I see them in very different lights. I think David Montgomery is on this list and can be obtained pretty easily, but I'm not sure you're going to be getting running back 1 numbers. You might get 1 more year out of him, but likely you're going to see running back 2
numbers.
Yeah, so he's going to be one of these guys that's in even though the smaller percentile, that the 10% type of guy or even the 3% person that's a running back 2-3 times. You know what I mean? That was a 1-year wonder at
10% chance. Yeah. Wow. Or 3%.
3%. He could be 3.33% chance, that hits this running back 1 list once and is, 3-timer on the running back 2.
And just look, you think, I mean, the names changed pretty quickly here. I mean, let's just go back 5 years ago, right? Here are the running back 1s in 2016. David Johnson, Zeke Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, LaShawn McCoy, DeMarco Murray, Devontae Freeman, Melvin Gordon, LeGarrette Blount, Mark Ingram, Jordan Howard, Frank Gore, Latavius Murray.
I had 3 of those players on 1 team.
Look at you, killer.
I won the championship that year.
That's just 5 years ago.
Yep.
Right? 5 years ago, those were your running back 1s. You don't want any of those guys on your roster right now.
And I can't. Zeke. I was going to say, but Zeke's a sell.
And Melvin Gordon.
Zeke's a sell. And so, I mean, Melvin Gordon, I think, he might actually have a price that makes him not a sell. You know what I mean? How much can you really get for him? I'm not sure. He's one of these guys that I can't get a good feel of him because I don't want him. I'm not running out to get him, so I feel like it's not like one of these guys that's a high.
That's 5 years ago, Matt.
Yeah.
You're not running after. You're not running after any of those guys. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to sell Zeke right now. That's why he's a buy. His value's depleted. And then Melvin Gordon, it's just everybody's hated him for 2 years, but he's been great value, like we've said, because he's been on this list. Go back 4 years ago, right? That's not even hashtag 2 to 3 year window, hashtag outliers 2 to 4 year window, right? Here's your running back 1s, guys, gals. Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, Melvin Gordon, Mark Ingram, LaShawn McCoy, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Carlos Hyde, Jordan Howard, Duke Johnson. That was 4 years ago.
That was 4 years ago. Give me 1, 2, 3 of those guys. I'll take 3 guys. I'll take Kamara, I'll take Hunt, and I'll take CMC.
Yeah, and I would take,
maybe Melvin Gordon.
I would take Melvin Gordon for the right price.
So maybe, my running back maybe 4 guys.
Which is what I expect him to do. If you get Melvin Gordon too, that's what you should expect out of him. He's going to be in that 33. Actually, he would fall into that 44. Or actually, no, he'd be.
He's a guy that's done it how many times?
3. So there's a 53% chance Melvin Gordon's going to be at least a running back 2.
Yep.
At least a running back 2. 53% chance.
I think he's already done it once. Yeah, he has. So he's in this 33% or 35% chance he might have to do it. He might do it a second time.
35% chance. Okay. There's still not terrible odds.
Not terrible odds.
But so you have a 35% chance of Melvin Gordon being a running back 2 at least.
At least next year.
Out of all the running backs out there, that's a good wagon to hit your saddle to, right? Don't you hit horse to?
I think you might have mixed metaphors there. I don't know.
Put your saddle on the wagon. Put your horse on the saddle.
I don't know.
Put your horse in the wagon.
The way
pull.
you said it made me believe that it was right.
Just get your hitch, put it on something, okay?
So stick with that.
So we went back 4 and 5 years. Like, that's a lot of dud names. So when you're looking at these name of list of 2020 guys, let's go over that list. Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, James Robinson, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, Jonathan Taylor, Kareem Hunt, Josh Jacobs, Zeke Elliott, Mike Davis, Antonio Gibson. Of course it sounds great today. Because literally a month and a half ago, we were playing Dynasty Fantasy Football, and they were all running back ones, and they were carrying your team. But that name is going to look, in 4 years from now, is going to sound just as bad as what we said in 2017. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Just as bad 4 years from now. In
4 years from now, we're going to be like, yeah, I'll take Jonathan Taylor off that list and Antonio Gibson.
Yeah,
and maybe Josh Jacobs.
And 3 years ago, we have guys on the list like David Johnson, Phillip Lindsay, James White, James Conner. Those are names you could toss to the wayside.
Yep.
And yeah, David Johnson had a couple good years there, but so it was only a couple. He true definition of hashtag 2 to 3 year window where he should have been selling high.
Very true.
So again, the numbers here all speak from themselves. And if you go back over the years, it's pretty consistent, because guys start falling off the list and guys get back added to the list. So Maurice Jones-Drew, guys like that were more than running back ones once. Even a guy like Michael Turner that was on this list, he only says that he was running back one once. He was only a running back one twice. His entire career. Guys like, Steven Jackson was obviously a stud. Michael Bush was only running back once, but MJD was only like a handful of times for him too, 3-4 times. He was that hashtag 2 to 3 year window. He was like not Derrick Henry, so to say. That was more of like a D'Angelo Williams, so to say.
Frank Gore is the guy that's on this list that bugs me the most because
he goes way back.
He goes so far back, and he's on the 1 year wonder list, but he shouldn't be on the 1 year wonder list because he goes so far back that he was a running back 1 more than one time. But did you know that he was a running back 2 like 7 times or something? It was ridiculous. Or 6 times he was a running back 2. So he to go on top of the other 3 or 4 times when he was actually a running back 1. If you go back to the beginning of his career, it's just that guy has been.
But it's hit and miss. Even because even though this goes to 2011, Frank Gore wasn't a running back 1 in 2010.
No, definitely he wasn't. No, I mean that's the thing. Like he's an outlier in a different way. He's like a running back 2 outlier. You know what I mean?
And we're not scavenging those numbers because those guys, we're looking for difference makers. You need at least. You don't need it. It depends how your dynasty roster is constructed. But if you want to win a championship, you should have a running back 1 on your roster. It's a big help.
It definitely is. I feel like Frank Gore is the guy that, especially in our league, that has been going on since Frank Gore was like new to professional football.
I drafted him when he was a rookie,
right? Exactly.
In 2003,
and he was the guy that literally was traded more than anybody around because he always was old. You know what I mean? And like broken, but he was always still at least producing running back 2 type of numbers. So he was getting moved from championship to championship team, like as our dynasty, as our league kind of cycled through itself.
Him and Tom Brady both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heavily traded.
Yep.
I drafted him his rookie year, Frank Gore. And then I traded him away, and then I traded for him again back like 7 years later.
And then I traded for him from you.
And then I traded him away again.
And then I traded him away again.
So I had him on my roster twice in like a 7-year window. So I think the main point of this episode is to let you just kind of know that the numbers are here to prove that it's a hashtag 2 to 3 year window. And that's it. And the outliers are hashtag 2 to 4. And that's really it. Because anybody else is a complete outlier. And you're looking at about, again, a 0.83% chance in a decade.
I'm glad we married that information with the turnover information at the position, because there's no doubt that not only is the position itself lend itself to being, a shorter shelf life, but also the fact that there's just so much turnover. year to year in production and usage, I feel like it goes into that as well. And I'm glad you brought up those numbers as far as the turnover.
And with injury too. I mean, it's a part of it.
Yep.
It's well, if he didn't get hurt, well, yeah. Then if I would have started Baker Mayfield, my favorite player ever, over Jared Goff in my high stakes league, I would have won the championship instead of being eliminated the second round.
You can't deal in ifs.
I would have won 2 games in a row instead of lost, and I would have won a lot of money, a significant amount of money that I could really happy with. It's all because I didn't start Baker Mayfield. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Oh, if he didn't fumble there, and how many games in the playoffs are decided by 0.1 points? Every decision you make in Dynasty matters. It's why we do this podcast every single week. It's why we started a YouTube channel so we get more information out to you, right? We're going to do a YouTube video here soon on our prediction for running back ones, wide receiver ones, tight end ones coming soon. Make sure you get to YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to that Dynasty Nerds channel. We have so much more content, and use this information to help us come to that decision. Okay, do we want to put Aaron Jones in here next year, which seems like an easy decision? Well, maybe not now after talking about it. And we don't look as crazy now from omitted Zeke Elliott. Because now when somebody comes to you like, oh, dude, I saw your running back one list and Zeke Elliott was on it. What do you know? Well, no, what I know is Zeke Elliott was a running back one already 4 times. So there is literally about a 95% chance that he won't be a running back one ever again.
Yep.
Now, I could see Zeke being an outlier for sure. He's that talented. But odds are not in his favor. Let's say it that way. And who is the next guy up that's going to get those 3-year guys? And they're all guys we like on a rookie. Again, they're all guys we like on that window. If I'm going to overpay, so here's the point. If you're going to overpay for a running back, don't do it for Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook when you're going to get probably 2 more years out of them, and you're going to have a two first plus for those guys.
And chances are that you're going to get mostly running back 2 numbers because they've cashed out of all their running back 1 years.
Let's look at guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne, Najee Harris,
look to the
Javonte
future.
Williams.
Yep.
When you have the running back, like Matt just said, consistently look towards the future. And what may be an oversell today will be an undersell tomorrow.
And don't do it, don't do it
just to do it.
Don't do it just to do it. If you have a championship team, don't disassemble it just to get young, but you have to pick and choose which pieces to get rid of. You know what I mean?
What are you getting back?
Exactly.
Yeah,
you always got to be smart about it.
And you always have to go for the ship. Always.
I wanted to make sure that we got that message out, that you're never going to get rid of a guy just to get rid of a guy if you have a legitimate shot.
Yeah, when you're top 4 in your league, and you have a legit shot at the championship game. Because going back 2 years ago, even some of these guys are great. These are just the regular season, right? Weeks 1 through 16. 2 years ago, you rode the playoffs with a great team with Josh Jacobs and Derrick Henry.
Right.
For your championship game, they were not available. And guys like that happen as well. So even the good guys that get you there that are still running back 1 numbers, they're running back 1s for a reason because they got all the carries all year long. So even more so at the end of the year, odds are of them being banged up are pretty high. And then you get the outliers, again, like Alvin Kamara's and guys like that win you a championship. So if you can identify that outlier, then that's the guy you overpay for. So like this year, odds of us having a guy that's going to jump in an outlier mix, it's going to be Jonathan Taylor. And his price tag reflects that. Because if you have to bet on a guy who's going to be that next Zeke Elliott and get you 4 straight running back 1 numbers, I would bet on Jonathan Taylor. That's a guy I'm willing to overpay for because I feel like I'm going to get
situation, talent,
at least running back 2 numbers usage for the next 4 years. Odds are. Mm-hmm. If I had to pick the one guy, odds are I'm going to get at least running back 2 numbers out of Jonathan Taylor. So if he costs me 2 first plus and I need it for that running back position, which is so important, I'd pay it for him. He's literally the only guy on this list that I would do that for. That's a running back 1 this year.
I think as far as paying that price, I agree.
Right? I mean, I'm not paying that price for Derrick Henry because his odds have gotten lower. I'm not paying that price for Kamara because his odds are significantly lower because he's already at 4.
He's already at 4.
The best to be LaShawn McCoy did it 5 times in a decade, but even his whole career, he's only been a running back 1 6 times. Now he's been a running back 2 more times. So he's a running back 1 or 2 8 times his entire career.
Right.
That's Alvin Kamara. So he's already been a running back 1 4 times. So odds are he's going to be a running back 1 or a running back 2 probably if he's gonna be the GOAT,
Sure.
For example, LaShawn McCoy example of the decade, 4 more times.
Yep.
Now, what are you willing to pay for that? He's still young enough, but those running back years fall off pretty quickly.
I was going to say that you have a much higher chance of having running back 2 numbers with him than multiple running back 1 numbers.
So guys, I'm looking at, like we just mentioned, all the guys we just mentioned, those are guys that I'm willing to attack. And that if I'm buying a running back, that's where I'm going to put my money at. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing a startup, that's where I'm drafting. I'm going to grab the young receiver. We're going to tell you why next in the first round. And it's why I've never, ever taken a running back in the first round of a startup ever. This is why.
Yep.
In the first round, I'm taking Justin Jefferson if I can get him, right? Mm-hmm. DK Metcalf, AJ Brown. I want those guys. And then guess what? In the second round and in the third round, I'm still looking at wide receiver, but then maybe the third or fourth round, can I get J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, those guys there, and let me keep riding that wool, that train or ride. Woo, woo. Whatever. Or I'll hitch my horse to that horse. You know what I mean? I'll hitch my horse to that horse.
That sounds like some good horsepower you got there.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff here. So the most important thing is always remember, it's the same thing we've been preaching to our audience for 6.5 years that we've been lucky and blessed to do this podcast for you. And it's hashtag 2-3-year window. Dynasty running backs should always be the most fluid position on your roster. They're going to get you, when they put out the big numbers, they're going to get you one of the best returns you can possibly get as well. And then identify guys early that you can trade for. Like I gave up a future second plus for Antonio Gibson way early in the year before Darius Geist got cut because I identified him as somebody who I liked being a running back. I predicted Antonio Gibson, even if Geist didn't get cut, to be the running back 1 there eventually.
I do recall.
That's a guy who I thought, okay, what's the price tag on him because it'd be worth later. It worked out. It won't always work out that way, but it worked out on that one because now I have a running back 1 who was running back 1 once. So no matter what I paid, I got a 33% guy, you know what I mean, off the gates. And odds are of him being a running back 2, at least, are really high as well. So identify those guys. What are you willing to pay today for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? What are you willing to pay for J.K. Dobbins? And what are you willing to pay for DeAndre Swift? Okay? This is a very deep draft class. There's going to be some very coveted players come your draft. Target those guys. Identify them. What does it cost besides your first if you need a running back? Plus. Don't be afraid to give up your second. Don't be afraid to give up your third.
Never be afraid
or
to
your
give
whole
up
draft
a
class.
Second or a third.
Or a second next year for those guys because they could be the next outlier. If I had to bet, I'm going to go DeAndre Swift.
Me too.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, J.K. Dobbins. In that order.
In that order.
For me.
I would
all
have,
close. I want all three of them.
I would have the same order. Yep.
It doesn't mean I don't like J.K. Dobbins, but if I had to do that, put them in order of priority, that's what I'm targeting.
If I knew that Gus Edwards wasn't going to be there, I think I would have Clyde Edwards.
A little high. J.K. a little higher.
J.K. Higher.
Well, Lev Bell won't be there. Darrell Williams will be there next year.
That's what I'm a little bit worried about, yeah.
He got, well, people are like, well, look at Darrell got all those carries. Well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was banged up. He was questionable going into the game.
Yep.
But still, those are the guys that I'm identifying today. Jonathan Taylor's out of my price range, so I'll never feel comfortable giving up that for a running back. I'd rather take a step back and give guys who have not been a running back a chance to get into that category. Those are the 3 guys I'm targeting. If you're going to make an overpay, those are guys to do it. Because remember, what may seem like an overpay today may be an underpay tomorrow.
Yeah, when they're ruling the world and looking like one of these elite guys.
And we have these stat sheets here. If you have any other questions about running backs, we have these. Like Matt said, we are going to save this data every year going forward. We're going to track this for as long as we're doing this podcast, which I ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
Me neither.
So, and remember, subscribe to that YouTube channel. We're going to do our predictions for running back 1s coming up here soon. And just support the podcast that way. Also, if you want to support the podcast, make sure you get on iTunes, leave us a rating and review. That really helps out the show as well. Obviously, the more ratings and reviews you get, the more Apple likes you, the more they put you to the front. Helps us support the game of Dynasty and make it bigger. Make sure you check out dynastynerds.com every single day. We have so much good content out there for free. And, of course, you got to try out the Dynasty GM. There's no better time. There's a lot of good updates coming there. There's another update coming out in a couple months here, too, that's going to blow your guys' socks off for the Dynasty GM.
I cannot wait, man.
It's going to change the game of Dynasty. I'm telling you. You got to get there. If you always want to see what the hype is on Dynasty GM, it's absolutely free to try on dynastynerds.com right now. You can try it for 3 days. If you have Sleeper, Flea Flicker, MFL, it automatically imports your leagues for you. All you got to do is put your login information in, And if you on a different platform, it literally takes you 8 minutes. I didn't
manually. Yep.
8 minutes to manually upload your entire league. It's that easy. Try it out, use it, and I promise you that this will be the best Dynasty tool you have ever used. And anybody who's bought it from day one, which was like 8 months ago, not even 6 months ago, November,
yeah, something
or so.
I can't remember, but sounds about right.
Ask them how drastically different and improved it is in 6 months, and how many more features it has. It's never going to stop growing.
Nope, we're just going to keep on growing that thing.
Every new membership that we get, that money that comes in, goes right back to the developer and say, add more, add more. So if you want the tool to be better, buy it. It's going to get better.
Absolutely.
I promise you that. Yep. And of course, if you want to talk on Twitter, I'm at Dynasty Rich.
I'm at Dynasty Matt.
Follow the site at Dynasty Nerds, and we will be back next week with Garrett and Jared. We'll talk a little bit Senior Bowl, see what happened to them. Any other news today came out was Jeff Wilson signed his 1-year deal in San Francisco. I don't know how the guarantee is, so that's a nice opportunity there for him. I still think they signed a running back in free agency, but that's it, really, the big things.
That's it, man, as far as newsy and notesy stuff.
All right, how about we dive into the same statistics, Matt, with wide receiver?
Ooh.
Nerd Herd. Hey, you joined the Nerd Herd, you get that podcast too.
Nice. Adios.